Hello and welcome back to Norrin Reads. In this episode I will be reviewing Silver Surfer number 6 from the 1987 series. This issue was written by Steve Englehart, penciled and colored by Marshall Rogers, and inked by Joe Rubinstein. This issue is entitled War, and war has begun indeed between the Skrull and Kree Empire. It begins with the Skrull ambushing a Kree outpost with their overwhelming forces because they've caught them by surprise and they are essentially decimating this Kree outpost. The Skrull leader Kree is in charge of this attack, and he believes that the Skrull Empire must attack quickly because their secret has been discovered and they need to wipe out the Kree as soon as they can. Kree has an argument with his third-in-command named Aptak. Now, Aptak, he's stuck as a Wesalian female, and Kree says that Aptak's presence has been harder to support ever since he's been stuck in this form. And I'm wondering if it's because he's attracted to him and that's distracting. It's not really clear, but something comes up later that maybe answers the question. He asks him, "Or have you forgotten that you're a Skrull male?" And Aptak, he loses his composure and complains that the Empress asked him to spy on this planet, and since he had the best military mind, he was assigned to it. He smashes something and he says, "I hate this prison of flesh." And I find this interesting. It shows that the Skrulls really have a difficulty maintaining one form, especially a form that is alien to them because they're so used to just being whatever they want all the time. Meanwhile, back on the Kree homeworld, the Kree Council is discussing their plan of action with the Supremor, or the Supreme Intelligence. The council consists of Ninora, Tuskat, and Fedor. And there's an interesting moment here with Fedor, and you realize something about the Kree. There are blue Kree and there are pink Kree. And there is racism within the Kree against the pink Kree because the blue were supposedly the original Kree. They are the origin of the species. So while they're having this discussion about the outpost being attacked, it is relayed to Fedor that most of the Kree on there were pink Kree, so he shouldn't be bothered by this. He replies, "Mostly pink, Tuskat, not entirely." Ninora responds, "This is no time for internal struggles, Fedor." So it's interesting to see there's an internal schism with the Kree because of their racism. They can't even unite to fight against the Skrull. There's still this division between them. Finally, Fedor says, "I understand that the Skrulls are worse than any Kree," and the Supreme Intelligence says, "That will suffice." After the council is dismissed, the Supreme Intelligence speaks to Nullet. And Nullet is this little monkey that's been climbing around the room while they've been having this conversation. The Supreme Intelligence tells Nullet that he is once again in his element as the leader of the Kree. He believes that this time there won't be a stalemate. This time, the war between the Kree and the Skrull will be the end-all war. He says that this is the most important event in the history of the universe. Meanwhile, on the planet now known as Gullish Yar, Mantis and the Surfer learn the plans of the Elders from the Obliterator. The Obliterator talks about his origin, about where his people came from, and as he grew up, he became obsessed with hunting. And as he grew older, he didn't lose his vitality. It seemed that all the systems in his body focused on preserving him. The doctors believed that he was a mutant. He says, "Possibly my obsession caused the mutation. Possibly the mutation caused my obsession. Whichever, I went forth and killed everyone on my world. Then I expanded my horizons to other worlds." And throughout his travels to other worlds is where he met the Gardener first, and then he met the rest of the Elders. And they learned about their all-consuming obsessions, and that's what kept them alive. Then they met Galactus, and they learned that Galactus had actually survived from the previous reality into this reality. He says, "Can you see what that meant to us? We had billions of years to accept that no living thing held a more exalted position than we, but now we saw that we too were limited. So it was that we resolved to destroy Galactus." Mantis points out the fact that if Galactus is destroyed, it would destroy this entire universe, this entire reality. And Obliterator says, "We Elders have escaped our connection to death. The interplay of death and eternity which creates this reality holds no sway over us any longer. We can destroy Galactus. And if they do this, it would destroy this reality, they would survive, and it would create an entirely new reality in which they could all pursue their obsessions." One of the great visual cues during this part of the story is that Mantis's hair is growing. If you notice, she starts off with a really short haircut, but by the end of this sequence, she looks like the Mantis we met in the previous issues. The Obliterator then tells them that the Elders plan to test a weapon meant to destroy Galactus on Earth because Earth is a safe planet because Galactus has vowed not to destroy it. So they're going to go there to test this weapon. Thusly, the Surfer and the Mantis need to go to Earth to stop this. Before they leave, Mantis and Surfer have this exchange where she calls him Norrin, and he reiterates that he's no longer Norrin, he's the Silver Surfer, and he has to fly free. And she's confused about his reaction when she came back from the dead. Well, if you are Silver Surfer and you're not Norrin Radd, why did you react the way you did when I came back from the dead? And he says, I am naturally pleased whenever innocent life is spared. And her response is, you are a liar, Norrin Radd. Surfer doesn't respond directly to that. He just snaps his fingers, summons his board, and tells her, let's go to Earth. They leave the planet believing that the Obliterator will be safe there, with Mantis's plans to watch over him. Meanwhile, the Kree are lying in wait to set off a trap that they've set for the Skrull. The Supreme Intelligence believed they were going to attack Sandumar 2, and so they evacuated this planet, and when the Skrull show up, they're going to detonate the planet and destroy them. But while Fedor and his men are waiting to spring this trap, the Skrull armada turns away from the planet. Fedor is awfully shocked, and he is in contact with the Supreme Intelligence, and he thinks that there is obviously a traitor. Supreme Intelligence agrees, and he orders Fedor back to Kreelar. Meanwhile, an issue with the Skrull is coming to fruition. They are a splintered empire, and there are groups of people vying for power. And Kylor is one of these people who's trying to regain control of the Skrull Empire. He's the one precipitating this war on the Kree. He's contacted by Prathik, who is another would-be Skrull emperor. He claims he's the emperor of the Skrull. There's an argument between the two, and Kylor says, I'm the emperor of the Skrull. I'm the emperor of the reborn Skrull Empire, and this attack proves it. And they argue for a moment, and Prathik says that he's going to appeal to the other three warlords. Kylor doesn't care. He believes he's going to be victorious, so he just cuts off communications with Prathik. Suddenly, Aptak screams, "Ow!" and punches a Skrull officer. Kylor asks, "What happened?" Aptak responds angry, "He pinched me." Kind of a humorous moment exaggerating this issue of Aptak being stuck in this form. While Mantis and Surfer are on their way to Earth, there is a conflict between them. The Surfer believes that Mantis tricked him by planting the knowledge in his mind about the Elders' attack on the West and East Coast Avengers. Her argument is that he was seeking the Elders at the time, and the Avengers were his friends anyway, so she doesn't see the difference. He claims she's treating him like a child, and again he goes back to the Surfer needs to fly alone. She says, well, I'm not treating you like a child, but you're acting like a child. She says that the Surfer has admitted that the Elders have extraordinary powers and they need to work together. The Surfer doesn't really understand why, because his whole purpose was to discover why the Elders wanted him killed and what they had to do with the Skrull and the Kree's struggle. And he's never gotten an explanation from Mantis about why she opposes them. And she says it's simple because she's defending life, which the Elders' plans threaten. So the argument continues. Mantis says, this one knew nothing of the scope of the Elders' plans, but she, the Surfer, interrupts her. Stop speaking of yourself in the third person. You are right here. She responds, then why are you trying so desperately to push me away? He says, I'm not. She replies, once more, you are a liar. Silver Surfer is enraged at this point. He says, get off this board. I don't have to listen to this. Mantis responds, face facts, Norrin Radd. You are a man, for all your silver skin, and you like this one as a woman. He replies, that sort of thing is behind me. Mantis says, this one is a woman for all her cosmic consciousness, a woman who knew many men before her marriage, but none at all since her husband transcended his body. She needs someone who can share a life among the stars. The Surfer now looks sad. He replies, I am pledged to Shalabal. Mantis says, what you had with her is finished. Seize the future, man. And they embrace and kiss. The pair fly off into space, and they dance on the Surfer's board as they glide effortlessly through an asteroid field. The images here are really beautiful. Meanwhile, back on Kreelar, the Supreme Intelligence claims that he has found the traitor. He's looked through the histories of all the people on the council, all of their associates, all of their friends, friends of their friends, their lovers, their enemies, and he hasn't found anything. The Supreme Intelligence questions the council members. Have you anything to say, Fedor? Only this. If you believe I'm the traitor, you're a fool. What say you, Minora? Nothing, Supremor. And you, Tuskat? I await your pleasure, Supremor. And Nullet, of course, can say nothing. And so I still have no hard evidence. And so Nullet dies. And Nullet is engulfed in this beam, and he falls off of the desk, burnt. The Supremor deduced that it must have been Nullet that was the traitor because Nullet had access to his memory banks, so he could have, quote, covered his tracks. Ninora, she shows external shock, but as we see her thoughts, she reveals that she is a Skrull spy. And if Nullet was a Skrull spy, it was kept secret even from her. Since the Supreme Intelligence doesn't know that Nenora is a Skrull spy, he makes her chief coordinator, and he puts Fedor in command of the Kree fleets. Meanwhile, Mantis and Surfer are flying through space towards Earth still, and he talks about his history on Zenn-La and how the people there aren't demonstrative. He talks about how Alicia Masters treated him when he arrived on Earth and how it saved him from his alienation of being alone in space for eons. Mantis points out that he did recover, and he says, "Not then, not really. I remembered my love for Shalabal, but it was only a memory. I loved no one else in that time, though it seemed Shalabal was denied me. I would have not interested myself in you then. I would have not interested myself in you now, if you hadn't broken through my silver shell." He holds her and they kiss. Suddenly, an apparition of Shalabal appears, and she says, "Norin, can you hear me?" He replies, "Shala." She says, "Norin, you pledged to protect Zenn-La from a Kree-Skrull war, and that war has begun. A Kree fleet is sweeping towards us, using the power cosmic you bestowed upon me. I call upon you to return to us now." Mantis, I gave my word to protect my homeworld, as she says, but with the Elders threatening to destroy all reality, they threaten Zenn-La as surely as do the Kree. She replies, "Then you must choose. Decide which of us to aid." The Silver Surfer says, "There was nothing to decide. I gave my word to Shalabal. I shall leave you on a vegetated world. You can continue to Earth from there." Mantis responds, "As you will," and she thinks, "But you have seized the future, Norinrad, and you will find that it will never let you go." I particularly enjoyed that closing line from Mantis. I'm interested to see where that goes. I think this is one of the more complex issues of the Surfer series thus far, with all of the different machinations of the Kree and the Skrull. I'm really enjoying the differences between the Skrull and the Kree, and the similarities. For example, the Skrull have this splintered, divided empire, and they're all vying for power, so they are fighting amongst themselves while they are fighting a greater threat, which is the Kree. While the Kree have a united front, it appears, they also have this racism against the pink race of Krees that is also a form of infighting. So I think both of them are going to be negatively affected by this in this grand scheme, in this grand war against each other. There were moments of high relationship drama between the Surfer and the Mantis, but I feel it was necessary to have this break for Surfer. He needed to let go of this idea that he needs to be alone and they can't have any connection, because he had been that for so long as the Herald of Galactus. He really took it on himself, and after being denied Shalabal, it really affected him even deeper. So I'm glad to see that Mantis, this plant woman, this representative of life, can break through Surfer and get him to show this emotion and get him to love and try to do this again. I think it's really important for the character. The subterfuge happening with the Skrulls infiltrating the Kree Empire is also an interesting aspect of this story. I'm interested to see where that goes. I have some thoughts about what the Supreme Intelligence might do, or what he might actually know at this point and maybe is keeping secret. We'll see how that plays out in the future. I think this is one of the best issues in this series thus far, and I'm interested to see where this Kree-Skrull war goes. I want to thank you all once again for joining me, and we'll see you out there on the Cosmic Spaceways.